I am so excited. You know, it's always fun to have a little bit of bling in your talk, in a good old conference. So I've had the privilege last year, for those of you who were here, Vivian Dye back there was an attendee at Symposia and made herself very well known because I struggled getting all of you back into your seats. So she just stood up and said, "Hey, everybody sit down." And I'm like, "Whew, she's good." And then Georgia said, "Mom, you need to be friends with her." So a year later, bestie besties. And the bonus to that, along with Vivian as a partner and investor, came Stella Carakasi. As an investor and partner, she was able to bring Stella to us today. I'm so excited to have her. Many of you have on Stella jackets. Anyone who looks extra fabulous in the long jacket? Carrie and Terry. You want to stand up? Yeah. Come on up to the front. Oh, yay. Okay, great. So just to get us in the mood and be able to take a look behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, we have been lucky enough to get permission to take a peek at a very special video. So, Amy.
I've always been fascinated by fabrics, by trims, by colors, by textures. I like to really stretch the limits, the technical limits that I'm being faced with, and the creative limits. I have over the years understood what it is that makes any kind of body look very flattering. I cater to the real woman, if you will, and I understand her needs. I try to give her something that she can wear from morning to evening. It has to be practical, it has to be easy care, because I identify with her. I'm pretty much that woman. I have always known that I wanted to be a designer. It's kind of like sculpting with fabric. You start with something that's two-dimensional, flat, and you create something that's three-dimensional. I incorporate a lot of architectural details into my collection. I incorporate a lot of intricate fabric manipulation into my designs. And my customer feels transformed because I tend to work with fabrics that are natural. I tend to work with fabrics that feel sensual against the skin. I want to give her a product that she feels unique in, that she can combine with items that she already has in her closet, or she can actually dress from head to toe in Stella Carakasi. I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist. That was a lie. I tend to be very much of a perfectionist. I can take the idea and execute it down to the minutest detail, but it actually really does reflect in having a consistent sizing that I put out season after season, style after style. It creates confidence in my customers. When they come to me, they can always expect a certain look, a certain fit. It is really all about you. And again, I cater to the real woman. I understand that you might think you're not tall enough, or you're too short, or you're too big, or you're too skinny, or you're too busty, or you're too hippie, whatever it might be, and it really doesn't matter. I think self-confidence is probably your best asset. And if my clothing can support that, allows you to feel more beautiful, allows you to feel more self-confident, then I have accomplished what I set out to do. My name is Stella Carakasi, as you just heard, and I'm a local clothing designer. I've been in business for 22 years, and this is who we are now. But I'm going to tell you my story and how it all began. The highs, the lows, the almost losing everything we ever worked for, and how we're coming back.
My word today is reinvention. And I'm very familiar what that means. I have had to reinvent myself personally, but also in business. And it hasn't always been easy, but I have the tenacity to keep on going. And a little bit about my background. I am 100% Greek. I was born and raised in Germany to Greek parents. And as a first-generation immigrant child, it was very important, especially to my mother, to make sure that her two daughters were going to go to college. And as the story goes, there's only two professions. You either become a lawyer or you become a doctor. And while I probably could have pursued a medical career, I had an interest in it, I knew that that wasn't going to be for me. I've always known I wanted to be a designer. I had it in me. I was obsessed with it since I was a child. But I really wasn't able to let that blossom. So being the good child that I was, I pursued an academic career. But then when I was in high school, my father passed away, and that pretty much stopped all ambitions that my mother had for me. And the only choice that was left is to join the local college that did not offer law, that did not offer medicine, that did not offer anything creative. So it was a blessing in disguise ultimately for me, because I ended up pursuing languages. I was raised bilingual with Greek and German. I later on added French and English and Spanish. I became a translator. I graduated as a translator. And knowing that language came easy to me, I didn't have to put too much effort into studying, and no matter what I was going to do down the road, languages are always beneficial. And while in college, a good friend of mine moved to California, and I always known that I needed to escape from my very traditional Greek background. Germany wasn't for me either. And I had no idea what I was going to do. But when she invited me to come to California for the summer, I was on it. So I arrived August 15th, 1988, with a suitcase and a head full of dreams. I knew that I was coming to stay. I didn't tell anybody. And I had no idea how I was going to make it happen. But I knew I was determined that this was really it for me. And I became a live-in nanny for about a year and a half to a wonderful American family. I took care of their children. It allowed me to understand how it all works in this wonderful country. And during this time, I became very clear this was my opportunity to go back to college and try to figure out how am I going to become a clothing designer. And the reality was that the fashion schools at the time were private schools. Well, I didn't have that kind of money. What was I going to do? And as they say, where there is a will, there is a way. And I have a lot of tenacity. I kept on looking, and I discovered a wonderful community college that had an incredible fashion design program, the College of Alameda. I was able to afford that. I left my family that I was working for, and I became a waitress at the Claremont Hotel in order to put myself through school. I was working the shift from 6 until 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was back in college from 9 until 4. I was very determined that I was going to graduate. I was going to be the best in class. Nothing was going to stop me. And that's exactly what happened. During the time that I was in school, I won every fashion award because I was very serious about if you're going to do it, you're going to give it all you have. I graduated and started dabbling in the industry, full of dreams, so many hopes, so many ideas. And through very unfortunate, or fortunate, I should say, circumstances, I ran into my business partners. I was working for an Indonesian company at the time that was doing a lot of batik prints. It was big in the early 90s. And my business partner, Alan, literally had seen that company grow from 0 to $40 million. And he knew that at some point he wanted to kind of repeat the success. And his brother Stephen, who had just graduated from college and later on became my business partner and my husband, moved out from North Dakota to California to join his brother Alan in this big quest of wanting to start a clothing company. And they needed a designer. Well, Alan approached me. I wasn't quite sure. They had this insane idea of wanting to create clothing made out of hemp. And I was like, holy cow, are those brothers smoking too much? What's going on? I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. I'm doing just fine in mainstream fashion. So, and the whole idea came about as they were trying to come up with a business plan. What's going to be the differentiator for us? If we're going to enter this insane business of clothing, how are we different? Why are they going to buy clothing from us? Well, Stephen apparently had read a newspaper article in the Chronicle where a company was making hacky sacks made out of hemp fabric. And that gave him the idea, well, what if somebody was actually going to create a full collection of clothing out of this? And when he approached this company to share resources, he became aware that it was very secretive. And instead of kind of caving in, because he really had sank his teeth into the idea, he decided to backpack through China and find the one mill at the time in the world that was producing hemp fabric. When he stumbled across that mill, he loaded up as much fabric as he could in his 3 suitcases. He came back, called me again, because he knew I was on the fence. I wasn't quite sure what this was all about, and said, I got the fabric. I really want you to take a look at what it is and then decide if you want to join us. When I saw the fabric, which was a little burlappy, comparable to a coarse linen, I was hooked. I was hooked because it spoke to my adventurous nature. I knew there was nobody out there that I could probably consult with how to cut it, how to dye it, how to create wonderful clothing, how to soften it. It was all research and development. And here's the best part. When I finally said, okay, I'm going to join you, they said, oh, there is a stumbling block. We can't afford to pay you. But instead, what we are going to do is we're going to offer you partnership. And there's really something to be said about being young, feeling completely invincible, and being adventurous. And I said, okay. So we started our company, and it was under the name of Two Star Dog. Some of you might know that name, who has evolved into Stella Carakasi. It's the same people, the same everything behind the scenes. So we started as a menswear company because that's what Ellen and Stephen wanted to be. And it became very clear after I joined, you guys, we can keep the men's going, but it's women's clothing where it's at. We are the spenders. We are the wonderful people that spend money on clothing. Guys come back and they want to buy the same shirt 10 years later. So that's not going to build a business. So we made a quick switch, and the beauty of it all was we were a big fish in a small pond. We were the first company in the United States that created a full collection of hemp clothing. We actually, up to this day, still own the trademark, the original hemp jeans, and we will revive it in the near future. It was the 90s, and what happened in the 90s, there was such an environmental movement and so many early adapters in the industry that made a push for everything that was eco. What that allowed us to do is to literally create a business on COD, which is unheard of, cash on delivery. In our business, it's all about net terms. It's about giving out discounts. I mean, you name it. Back then, it really allowed us the pool of money that we had in order to really maximize it and build a business on it. And being a big fish in a small pond, really allowed us to grow relatively fast. There was stores, eco stores were popping out what seemed on a daily basis, and they needed product. And there weren't too many companies out there that supplied ecologically sound product. And we had taken on a very hardcore stance. We are not just going to be eco, we are going to be completely sustainable. Our cycle was completely closed. Even the scraps from the cutting table were made into paper. We were very proud of it. And we were pretty much doing this for a good 7 years. We started in 1993. And what happened is all the people that had their hearts in the right place and decided we want to get on the bandwagon, we really want to be part of this whole eco movement, ultimately gave the movement a bad name, especially a lot of clothing people did. The stuff didn't fit right, it was scratchy, it was kind of like eco granola fashion. We were finding ourselves going up against this wave of, well, that's great that you're all eco, but you know what, we tried it and it didn't work too well for us, because other suppliers who meant well, they had good intention, started ruining the reputation. People that had bought from us loved us, that kept coming back. They knew that if you want to buy eco clothing, hemp clothing, we're the people to come to. What had happened is we started entering a new arena. We were approached by the majors. Sundance catalog supported us. They gave us a taste of what it was like to actually deal with a bigger corporation. Other catalogs jumped on board. We ended up doing huge business with Nordstrom catalog, and that actually propelled us into mainstream. And we were also faced at that time of knowing we had reached a ceiling. There was only so much you can do within that eco realm, and we had grown our business now up to $8 million in sales. Expanding the staff, of course. We had our own sewing factory. We employed about over 100 people. We were not running a sweatshop. We were paying overtime, insurance, 401ks, matching contribution. We wanted this to be a great place to work. But in 2000, 2001, the writing was on the wall. We were holding on to our shop because we loved it. And the manufacturing environment was a little bit hostile at the time. And we were forced having to take our production overseas, begrudgingly so. And we started scaling back domestic production and expanding overseas production. The writing was also on the wall, eco is only going to take you so far. And if you want to actually go further, you have to enter mainstream. And what that did for us, we became a small fish in a big pond, still holding on to our eco beliefs, but expanding into mainstream fabrics. And part of the reason was, as much as Nordstrom catalog supported us, and we did thousands and thousands of units with them with hemp, they wanted better pricing because of all the units that they gave us. And we started working with them on better pricing to the point where we weren't really a non-profit organization. We were here for profit. And we were forced having to switch into other natural fabrics like linen, which were cheaper. And that helped us expand into organic cottons. Next thing you know, we were taking on other fabrics, experimenting with them. And it was time to reinvent. Why? Because if you don't join mainstream and you become a small fish in a big pond, you're done. Nobody is interested in eco anymore. And we were there to succeed and to survive. And as you all know, you have to remain flexible when you own a business. You have to always have a beginner's mind. All that experience you gain can also ultimately make you righteous in your thinking, because you know it all. And there's no more room for anything else. You have to remain flexible, because if you don't keep flexibility and a curiosity of what's next and how can we position ourselves for long-term success, you're pretty much finished. You're going to die. So we managed to go mainstream. That lasted until about 2008. The business kept growing. And then the economy hit. And we had this mentality that the gravy train is never going to stop. We started having a comfortable lifestyle. We had all this money. And all of a sudden, bam, the economy. And 2008 was probably one of the worst years of my life because it was further impacted with me giving birth to my only child. I had forgotten to become a mom because I was so driven and succeeding in this business. And I was fortunate enough that after struggling for so many years of wanting to conceive, I gave birth to my only child at age 42. And she came as a micropreemie. I had a horrific pregnancy. Everybody advised for abortion. And while I'm not a pro-lifer and I don't want to make this a political issue here, I, again, was forced to dig deep. I meditated quite often, and what my inner voice kept telling me, everything is going to work out, and I went with it, as I always have in my life. While neonatologists and everybody else around me kept telling me, we can't give you a guarantee. But I knew that it's going to be all right. She came on May 13th, 2008. She was 1 pound, 4 ounces. The economy hit. I can literally say within 1 year, we lost half of our business. A lot of the stores that we used to cater to no longer existed. They closed down. There was a lot of restructuring going on, even in the department store world, where all of a sudden we weren't needed. The stores that remained didn't order as much. And everything was further impacted with me not paying attention to the business as much as I should have. My focus was on my child. I did not know, will she live, will she die? I had a near-death experience as well during giving birth. So while I kept maintaining the utmost necessary to keep the business afloat, because I felt responsible for my employees, I wasn't going to let them down, but my focus was elsewhere. We kept sinking in our own personal money into the business. And we held on to our employees for too long because they're our family. Where would I be without my team? Where would I be with everybody that has ultimately trusted in me, in us? I was their livelihood. I was their paycheck. I supported all these families. If you love a business, it interferes with making wise business decisions. I held on to my employees for too long. And it literally depleted all our personal funds. And the writing was on the wall again. My God, we had to reinvent or we were done. And this time it was pretty dire. And in 2011, we were still two-star dog. My business partners approached me and they said, what do you want to do? Shall we close shop or shall we reinvent? Well, how on earth are we going to reinvent? We don't have any money, we're done. After 18 years working like an animal, not focusing on life, not taking vacations, it's all about work, trying to succeed. You have nothing to show for. It's a daunting reality, it's painful. And we took our time, not too long, about a couple of weeks, thought about it. And I decided there's no way, after 18 years, that I can go out there and get a job. Who's going to hire me? I have a lot to offer. I can't work for anybody. I have been my own boss for so long, it's impossible. So, what's the option? Stella, dig deep. You are this optimist. You can find it. And I decided, okay, let's reinvent. And it was during this time where we had consulted with experts, and everybody recommended, based on where the business was, it's time to close shop. Save the 2 shirts that are left and try to figure out what else you're going to do with your life. And I clearly remember leaving the second bankruptcy attorney that day, the office, and my partners were completely devastated, saying that's it. But I remember walking out and I was angry. And I said, to the hell with that noise. What they don't account for is the human spirit. What do they know where we came from and what we have accomplished? They can look at numbers all day long, but they cannot quantify what it takes to succeed. And you have to dig deep. And you have to believe in your mission and what it is that you're ultimately capable of catering to the world. And let all of that be the biggest lesson that we have learned. The gravy train does stop. What are you going to do next time when you actually seek out success again in order to capture that and take care of what it takes to face another downturn in your business? Let's do it. At that time, my business partner said to me, if we're going to reinvent, we're going to do everything new. And you need to put your name on the label. And being the kind of person that I am, I'm more the behind the scenes kind of person. Even standing here in front of you wonderful ladies, it's not easy for me. I said, oh, I don't need to have my name on the label. Right. I'm doing well being back here and doing what I do. And they said, no, you have to do it. And what I didn't realize is that having my name on the label actually psychologically did something big for me. I started taking that product unbelievably personal. This was me. And I had to make sure that whatever I was creating had a little bit of me in there. I'm a savvy business person. I understand what my customer wants from me. But if I can offer a little bit of me that reflects the love and the passion and the vision that I have for what it is that I do, then we will succeed. And that's exactly what I did. I cater to you. I cater to the real woman. I don't care about the beautiful 6-foot model that weighs 2.5 pounds and has perfect proportions. I am interested in what real women want to wear. It needs to be practical. It needs to be unique. It needs to bring out your personality. It needs to be easy care. It needs to be high quality. I understand your concerns. Oh, I have a muffin top, my boobs are too big, my butt is sagging, whatever it might be. I don't care. I literally design clothing that allows for a lot of body types to look fabulous in what it is that I do. And what I've noticed, and this is what we're trying to capture, there is a transformation that takes place when I see women come to my store and try on clothing that they didn't think was for them. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, I'm not going to look good in it. Oh, whatever it might be. And then they stand in front of that mirror and go, huh. And the first 20 years, it was the three of us, my business partner, Ellen, my husband, Stephen, and me. And while we were going through this daunting time, oh my God, what are we going to do? I also had the need, while we were in this transformation, we needed PR. We have been the well-known secret for so long. Let's toot our own horn. Come on. Let's go out there. Let's make it happen. And it's interesting that I wasn't aware how I actually can manifest. I do it with purpose now. Back then, it just magically happened. I met Vivian, who became the fourth partner in the business, and who brought the amazing PR skills that I was seeking. How are we transformed? Well, you have listened to the video, but with it came not just the passion and the investment that came with Vivian. We have literally looked at everything that we didn't do right and tried to remedy to do it right this time around. We unfortunately had to let some of our staff go. We scaled back. What we have learned during this process is you can actually do a lot more with less. We are maximizing our resources. We are implementing efficiencies. And with Vivian, the amazing thing happened. I was also wanting online sales. Her husband, Jeff, ended up joining the company, and he has this amazing skill set to make all this online stuff happen. So now we have online representation. We are very much involved in everything that's out there, from Facebook to Twitter to Pinterest, to doing contests online that actually drives a lot of traffic onto our site. Vivian, being the PR whiz that she is, has hooked up with a lot of bloggers, which allows, again, greater visibility. It drives traffic to our online website. And what I have done personally, begrudgingly so, because I tend to be a little bit on the introverted side, if you will, I was invited to join a mastermind group And I'm like, what on the planet is a mastermind group? Well, the mastermind ultimately is a group of like-minded achievers, business people, that collaborate together. And we use each other's resources in order to help fulfill our greatest potential. And the lady who was also my coach at this point, Susan McGinnis, happens to be in the audience. She's the one that convinced me I should join. And what really that has done for me is to dig deep and to understand what it means to have self-limiting beliefs, even if you think that you don't have them. They do stand in your way of reaching your highest potential. It is the latest psychology, latest research in psychology that you're being taught. And believe it or not, you do find that you have all those inner voices that ultimately will hold you back from achieving what you want to do. And I'm in this process right now, and I'll stay in the mastermind because I'm ready to pull out all the stops and to understand what my game is. And I have my sight high. I will not stop until we get there. If you ask me, well, how on the planet are you going to achieve this incredibly lofty goal that you have? And I'm going to announce it here in the audience. We want to become a $100 million company, and we are on our way. Not even close to 10. If you were to ask me, how are you going to do that? My answer is, I don't know. But the one thing that I have, and I can share with you, is I'm aligning. I'm aligning with the vision. And I am such a true believer that once you are aligned and you pull out the stops, where there are walls, a door opens. And you will run across people that will guide you towards that lofty, impossible goal, if you will. And I'm not going to stop until we get there. The other thing that I've also learned, and I'm still learning, I need to have life-work balance. I'm such a goal-oriented person. I'm such a high achiever. I forget about life, and it's all about go, 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 go. And the reality of it is, stop. Enjoy the process. It is so important that you always keep an eye on your goal, but you shouldn't forget to enjoy the process. The process is your ultimate teacher. The process will ultimately shape you in what you are hoping to become. And I'm still very much at the beginning of learning that. I have a 6-year-old child. I have a very demanding business. But I am trying to take a few minutes out for myself every day and to pamper myself whenever I can in order to be re-energized, to be re-inspired, and do what I need to do in life. So the advice that I can give you, or that I was asked to give, and I've written it down, is the mind is everything. What you think, you become. So be very careful of what you're thinking. It will manifest. The happiness in your life, and believe me, I had very moments where I wasn't happy, depends upon the quality of your thought. Therefore, guard accordingly. This is something that Marcus Aurelius said thousands of years ago. These incredible historic figures, they knew something. And we can apply the message to what it is that we all set out to accomplish. And the last piece of advice that I'm going to give you on my fancy chart here that I've written down: know as much as you possibly can about your business and become an expert at it. Why do I say that? Well, it takes about, they say, 10,000 hours, which equates to about 10 years when you work full-time, to become really good at what it is that you do. And again, the danger with that is, once you're an expert, you know it all. Keep a beginner's mind. Being an expert is wonderful. It allows you to have long-term vision. You can see a lot of things before they happen. You can be such an asset to your staff. and allowing them to draw from your experience, but at the same time, remain flexible, remain wide open, because all these youngsters out there, they have some incredibly fresh ideas that you can benefit from and add to your repertoire. So don't let your expertise become the part that paralyzes you and makes you righteous and makes you shut off to what you ultimately want to remain, which is porous. Let it all in. And to end, oh, there's another one, really important to me. Listen to your heart, even during the most challenging times in your life. Your heart will not mislead you. And while it is not the lucky and the smart people that succeed, although it helps to be lucky and to have smarts on your side, I think tenacity, endurance, and having a very clear vision of where you're going are probably more important than anything else. And now I'm going to close my speech with a fellow Greek, Aristotle. Love him. And he said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stella.